Well, it's a great pleasure to introduce, I'll check the names. I want to get this right because this is being recorded. Is Deborah Hilliard, and your job role is
I'm a qualified teacher of the visually impaired.
Qualified teacher of the visually impaired, and she's brought two of her learners, Liam and Uzma, there, and George the dog is just down there. And for the next 10 or 15 minutes, you'll be in their company.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to our session on accessible mobile learning. As Julian mentioned, I'm a qualified teacher of the visually impaired. I support learners with a visual impairment at NewVic. I've been there for the last 4 years, and prior to that I worked in the local VI service, so I'm very well acquainted with our learners and their needs. And I brought along two of my current students to talk to you this morning. Uzma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Uzma. I'm a student at NewVic College. I'm 20 years old. I like sculpture and stuff like that. And I love doing art, and I finished my course in art design level 2 BTEC, and
Okay, thank you, Uzma. You have to ask Uzma about her art later. It's absolutely wonderful. And Liam?
Yeah, my name is Liam Archer. I'm a student at NewVic. I'm 16, and I've finished the first year of my level 3 BTEC in sport.
Okay, for those of you who don't know NewVic, it's a sixth form college in East London. We have about 2,700 students. They take a wide range of courses. We have everything from foundation level courses, vocational courses, as these two both mentioned, they're doing vocational BTEC courses and A-level courses, and every year we have a large number of students go on to universities. Among students we have a large number who have different needs and need help with accessing the curriculum. Among them, always, there's half a dozen or so who have visual impairments. That, for those who don't know what a visual impairment officially is, it's any eye condition that can't be corrected with glasses from an optician. So they have a wide range of needs. It could be large print, it could be braille, it could be that they need tactile drawings, etc., or adapted equipment. When I arrived at NewVic 4 years ago, what we had laptops with specialist magnification screen reading software called Supernova. And of itself it works well, it gives good magnification, you can magnify one letter up to the size of the computer screen, it has speech, you can adjust the rate, you can adjust the screen colour, the font colour, and it does work well, but it is not very flexible once it's set up. We also have CCTVs, you can see in the middle of the screen there, but they're large and cumbersome. We have a portable one, but portable means that it actually fits in a rucksack and not necessarily in your bag or pocket. I'm also able to produce large print resources, braille, tactile diagrams, and we have a large range of adapted equipment, for example, rulers and maths equipment with raised lines. The advantages of all this is that it allowed our students to work independently. We could adapt them to what students needed individually, and it did give them access to curriculum, but it didn't work as well as it might. For one thing, the large laptops, the large CCTV, the large books of braille, it emphasised that there was a difference with these students. They complained that the equipment was heavy and cumbersome, and they didn't really like carrying it around. A particular problem with the laptops is that they were really slow to start up. They had to boot up the laptop, connect it to the network, then they had to load their software, and if they were lucky it worked first time. And what happened very often is if students only had one lesson, they wouldn't bother taking it, because they'd say, oh, it's only for one lesson, it's heavy, and quite often by the time I've got it ready to work, the teacher's telling you to put your pens down. So, not so good as it might be. The other big problem I found is that whenever the normal software, for example, changing from Windows XP to Windows 7, changing from Microsoft Office, all the software would stop working. And because the people who produced it didn't want to produce something that didn't work efficiently, there could be a long delay, which meant that our BI students were working with out-of-date technology. And I didn't think it was good enough for them. So we had time for a change. So what did we consider? We considered ultrabooks, you know, the large, light laptops, quite faster boot-up time, higher memory, lighter, thinner. But they still needed the same access technology, would still have had the same problems with the boot-up times and installing it. So they were discounted. Then we looked at convertibles, like a laptop, but you convert it into a tablet and a keyboard. But the access technology on them wasn't very good, and you couldn't download any other software onto them, so that wasn't good. So then we looked at tablets, Androids, iPads, whatever. My worry with that is, how do you operate a touch screen if you can't see? It all seemed to be built around sight. So I just did my research, and eventually we did decide that we were going to use iPads. So why? The biggest draw for me was that the Access software, the voiceover, the zoom, inverted colours, large print, bold print, high contrast, was all built into the operating system. When the operating system's upgraded, so is everything else, automatically. It's very adaptable to student need, and it's also very flexible. Once you program settings in, it's very easy to change them. And there are thousands of apps which turn it into any other equipment they need. Because it's got a camera, it's very easy to download an app that turns it into a CCTV, that turns it into a screen reader, that you can take photographs of and zoom into them to see things close up in detail. Even more importantly, it's ready to go the minute you open it. So my students can now start work the same time as anybody else. So sorry guys, no excuses for not getting your work in on time. They're also easily portable. This whole thing with a keyboard is less than half the weight of their previous laptops. So they now want to take them to lessons. They have them with them all the time. As for how to access the screen if you can't see, they're very quickly and easily paired either with a keyboard or a braille input device, and you can operate it through that. There are lots of keyboard commands that are very quick and easy to learn. And being a mainstream device, it's a fraction of the cost of the access technology we used to use. And because it's adaptable, it isn't just for BI. If I don't need it for a BI student next year, we can change the settings and use it for somebody else. It also dovetailed very neatly into a developed mobile learning in college. Everything was already being set up with her already trialled classes using iPads and mobile technology in class. So putting it into use, our management was really supportive. Because of the mobile learning project, the Wi-Fi network was being upgraded. It was better, faster, more efficient, and available over the whole college. I then had to consider how my students were going to use it. What features were they going to use? How were they going to learn it? And out of that, I produced some very short guides which gave them just the information they needed to know, which has now been made into an app which we use in college that can be given to anybody. And those guides are using it with voiceover, with speech, with zoom, magnification, what the keyboard shortcuts are. We then moved on to training staff to get them used to the idea that our students were going to be working differently. Not necessarily how to use them themselves, but to show them what could be done and what students would be doing with them, and also an idea of further possibilities. So we had them in class for a day, we gave them an iPad each, and we showed them what they used and gave them exercises to do. We made them send emails and using the Zoom and using the voice, so they would know what it was like to use for the students. And lastly, I had to train the students, which I thought was going to be really difficult. Fortunately, they are already quite familiar with the concept of touchscreen technology, and the keyboards we chose were very similar in size to the previous laptop keyboards, and a lot of the shortcuts that they needed to use were very similar, and I don't think it took them that long to adapt. And also, they are very fast learners. So 1 year on, what are we doing now? As I said, our students are using them on a daily basis and in ways that I hadn't thought that they might use them. For example, I found Liam was actually making short videos of himself instead of making notes that he can then play back. I hadn't thought of that. They use them in class alongside students, and we've also used them in exams. For the first time ever, the students were able to do an English reading exam, which they couldn't do before because you're not allowed a human reader. But we were able to download the reading paper directly from the exam board onto the iPad, and they could use the iPad to read it to them. So we're waiting for good results for those. Both of them were very happy with the arrangement. So what do our students think? Uzma, would you like to tell us what you used before you had the iPad?
I used the netbook for the exams and the courses I did. They were really, really difficult to use because they had to start over again and using the USB, and it froze every time. And the CCTV I used as well was really large to use. It was really difficult. It's kind of a disaster because of the lessons I was really not able to use it that much.
Yes. Were there any benefits?
No.
Okay. What do you use the iPad for now?
For exams and my course and my videos, I can take pictures and use the internet for the searches for the art things I do. It's really easy to use because I can change invert colours to black and white. It's really easy, and use it for my exam is really easy as well because I can use on time. And
okay. And did you find it easy to learn how to use it?
yes, I have. It's really easy because it's really straightforward as well because it's right in front of me and I can use voiceover, speech selection, and different coloured varieties on it.
Yeah. Did you feel as though you needed a lot of training to use it?
Yes, I have. Deborah Hilliard helped me train for this thing, this iPad, with the different colours and using magnification and different using keyboard to easy access to different techniques to write a letter and stuff like that, for the emails as well.
Okay. So which system would you recommend?
Of the iPad.
Yes. And do you think you'll continue to use them once you leave us at NewVic?
Yeah, I would recommend anyone to use the iPad. It's really, really good to use for any career, for any job experience and stuff like that.
Thank you very much, Uzma. Liam, you've only used the iPads with us, but you were obviously in secondary school. What did you use in secondary school and how did that work for you?
I used the old Braille, which was basically like a massive typewriter, and then I upgraded, shall I say, to the Braille Note, which is basically like a computer version of the old typewriter, but yeah.
And what were the benefits of that?
The benefits of that was learning Braille, obviously with obviously losing my sight. Braille was the only way for me to write and do work in school and in college.
And were there any disadvantages with that?
Pretty much everything else. Slow, really heavy to use. Slow and really heavy.
Yes. With the iPad, I know your teachers email things for you to use straight away on the iPad.
Yeah.
What happened before you had that when you were using the Braille?
Before that, teachers would have to send it to someone else for them to adapt it. That would take a couple of weeks before I got it to use, so I was 2 weeks behind everyone else. So by the time I started a bit of work, everyone else had pretty much finished.
Did you find it easy to learn to use the iPad, and did you need any training?
I thought the iPad was, well, easy to use. Having an experience with the iPhone already sort of helped me to know how to use the iPad already, but obviously I used it with the touchscreen. I haven't used it with a keyboard or the shortcuts before, so just learning how to use shortcuts for the iPad was the only help I needed then.
And which would you prefer to use in the future?
100% the iPad. Easier, lighter, quicker. You get the work pretty much straight away. Yeah, definitely the iPad.
And Apple aren't paying him for that. Okay, but we're talking about benefits of teaching and learning. As you've heard from my two students, the benefits that there is independent student access to the teaching resources. Their teachers regularly email them resources. They complete the work alongside their peers and they email it back. They can use the internet independently for research and whatever of the apps they need to use things. I know Uzma makes good use of the camera when she's doing her art, because she can take a photograph of what she's drawing and magnify parts of it to really look at the detail, which she otherwise would be unable to see. From the teacher's point of view, they think they're fantastic because they no longer have to give me resources up to a week in advance for me to put it into Braille or large print. They can email it to the student at the beginning of a lesson. So if they make changes to their lesson plan the night before the lesson, it doesn't make any difference because the students still receive the same resources at the same time as everybody else, which is really important. As well, teachers like it because they can actually see the work that the students are producing in class. I don't know how many of you can read Braille, but certainly none of our staff in NewVic can, apart from me. So that's also, they can give appropriate feedback at the time. They don't have to wait for it to be trotted back and then say, well, actually, you got this bit wrong, you should have been doing this, and the student doesn't feel that they're wasting their time. It needs to increase student independence and confidence because they know that they are doing the right thing. It can be configured to suit them individually, so when they've got eye conditions, which mean their vision is better on some days than on others, they can alter the iPad to suit their vision for that day, and it really does help them to get the most out of the teaching resources and their learning experience. What next? We've found that the iPads with the eye students has been so successful that we are now starting to provide them with other students with special learning needs, mostly with dyslexia, where they use them to read out. They use the drag and dictate app to dictate their work into an iPad. They can get their thoughts down on the page without worrying about spelling. And the typing, they use apps with what's called predictive analytical lexicons, which actually gives them suggestions for the words they may want to be typing, so they can just touch it and put it in, don't have to worry about it. Teachers themselves are beginning to prepare resources for the iPad, especially, so that they can be used in class. Students can access them individually to work out of class. They can use them one-to-one work with teachers and in small literacy workshops, dyslexia workshops, numeracy workshops. And the teachers are working alongside them. They're getting their admin done at the same time, so they think it's great because they're saving so much time. And because all the resources are on the iPad, they're not printing off piles and piles of paper. They've got everything at their fingertips. So if something is asked for during a lesson, it's there. They can use it straight away. They don't have to bring it to the lesson next week. It's making teaching more efficient, and our learners are learning faster. They're now coming to our skills centre and asking what do they have to do to get an iPad. So we found it's been very successful. I don't know if any of you have any questions, either for me or for our students, but please feel free to ask.
Wasn't that brilliant? I mean, that was such a clear take-home message. That, you know, modern everyday technology is just so adaptable and useful. And you guys you'll be around the rest of the morning if people want to talk to you, because I'm sure there's all sorts of things.
We will be here for the rest of the morning.
But you'll be around the rest of the morning.
Yes.
So, thank you very much. Let's show our appreciation again.